friends, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge. Have you been getting enough fixed blade reviews? Probably not. You need to see this one. This is a budget Tanto from China, the S761. It's a nice Tanto. It's nice in a lot of different ways. I've got the black version. You can also get it in an orange version, orange G10 handle scales. I'm quite happy with it. I got mine through Alibaba. Now, Alibaba is generally designed for, business purchases, whereas AliExpress is for individuals. But I'll leave links down below the video for AliExpress and Alibaba and any other store that I can find this knife at so that you can get your own, because this is a good deal of a knife. I mean, it's super pokey and, it's a pretty good size. My hands are just barely within the extra large range and I've got a very comfortable grip on this. Much bigger hands than mine might find it a little bit, snug. But even if you've got smaller hands than mine, this thing's got lots of room and good grip. So if you're interested in what I've told you so far, come on down to the tabletop. We're going to take a good close look at it. First, I'm going to show you the sheath. Now, these budget Sanrenmu knives, they weren't really made for the Western market. That's why they don't have the SRM branding on them. They've got, the Chinese Sanrenmu branding on them right there. Yes, that's Chinese. This is a Chinese company. I know. Those of you who have a tiny bit of experience with Japanese will say, hey, that's Japanese. Yeah. Japan and China use some of the same characters. They use the same alphabet for some of their languages. So, yeah, it looks a little Japanese. It's Chinese. On to the thing. This is, I think it's a fiber reinforced ABS. At worst, it's simple ABS, but I think it's a fiber reinforced ABS riveted together in 6 spots. Holds quite well. We've got some cheap leather right here riveted on in 2 places and a loop. So let's see what it looks like going in here. I don't want to be cutting on those things. So there we go. And let's put it in all the way. Where is it? Snap. That's got retention on it. What you're hearing is this flap, so let's close that off. Just put the snap on there, and let's see. Yeah, no rattle. Oh, side to side. Yeah, there's a little bit of rattle if I go side to side. The blade is banging back and around in there, going back and forth. But basically, it's a very quiet sheath. The retention here is very snug. This button's very snug. They got jimping up on the side of the sheath there. So when you grab it, you push your thumb on there and push off, and it releases. So for a budget sheath, I like this. I like you got a big belt loop. It helps the knife sit lower on the hip so that the handle is down on belt level instead of, up on your muffin top level, or mine. You might not have a muffin top like me. Actually, mine's a whole loaf, isn't it? That's going off topic. Hey, stop in the comments. That's not the topic here. All right, we're talking about the knife. I like where it sits. I like this. It is cheap leather, though. I think it's probably, remanufactured leather. Just not just plain skin cut and made. It's that reconstituted stuff. The stuff when you go to Walmart and buy a pair of shoes and it says genuine leather on there, yeah, it's ground up leather, with glue and sawdust and stuff and reconstituted into a sheet. Yeah, it's that kind of leather. It's got real leather parts in it, but it's not like it's straight off an animal. Oh, one other thing about this thing, we do have a drain hole right there. That's a good thing if you do get it out in the wet. Now, let me wipe this knife off because it's just a little bit dirty from use. I've used it a fair bit, actually, and it's got fingerprints and dust and stuff all over it. Some things stuck to the blade. Let's get rid of that. I like that they've put a proper Tanto on here. It's sort of a round belly. It's not just, a straight clip. A little bit of an upsweep. That's not very common. But it's got an upsweep here because it comes down and then back up, sort of like a Persian-style Tanto, if you will. You've got the full thickness of the blade all the way up to here, and then here you can see the bevel line right there. And that's where it starts getting thin. Very pointy tip. Fairly strong. That tip, since it's so narrow this way as well, that's not hard to break. So if you're slamming this into like a car hood or something, yeah, you're going to break the tip. Guaranteed. But anything, you know, sort of flesh textured, this thing's just going to slide right in like nobody's business. A fairly straight edge here. There is a very tiny bit of a belly on this part, but basically it's a straight edge. We've got a black washed flat, so that's some kind of coating, either a PVD or titanium black coating, and then they've, you know, tumbled it to black wash it. And the grind, it's fairly narrow right here, and it gets wider up to this part, and then you've got the tip. It's not super thick behind the grind. I'll give you those exact measurements a little bit later on. It's within the tolerances of what I like. Sharpener's choil, it's big enough. Yeah, it's actually made big enough, so that's a good thing. The badging on this side, I talked about the badging on that side already with the Sanrenmu logo. On this side, we've got a serial number across here and across the top here, S761 and then 8CR13 MOV. 8CR13 MOV, you know, it's got about 0.8% carbon, which is a high carbon, and about 13% chromium, which isn't a super high chromium. That's just barely within stainless steel range. It's a pretty good steel. Like I'm very happy with 8CR13 as a budget steel, especially when you consider, you know, the price of this knife is in the low 30s. Yeah, let's go over the price. There's a store called arenaaccessories.com. That's in the United States. I think it's in Connecticut. $33. Well, $32.95 for this knife. That's about the best price I could find. I've never shopped at Arena Accessories, so I don't know anything about them, but they've got the best price I could find, $32.95. AliExpress, it's just under $40. On eBay, I found it for $30.95, but they charge like $15 shipping, which makes it quite a bit more again. That's $45. So yeah, I'll leave those links down below. Price, not too bad. Like the low 30s, around $33 for this. I think that's okay. We've got a textured G10, 4 holes milled into it there, a nice cutaway here for your finger to get a good grip and wrap around there. Big chamfer all the way around. We've got a flare here on the end of the handle, T8 screws, lanyard hole back there, right at the very back where I like it. And then they've cut away some of the G10 so it's inset, so paracord's not going to bunch out. That's really well done. And with this flare back here, you've got a solid grip. You know, if you're pulling on it, your hand's just sort of locked in there. Very nice. On the spine of the blade, it's fairly straight with one little angle there. That's the handle. The spine of the blade, like I said, it's sort of a radiused, you know, it's coming down, but then right at the tip, it looks like it's coming up, but it's not really an upswept blade. They put some jimping on here, a little less than 3/4 of an inch worth of jimping. It's very aggressive jimping. You put your thumb in there and it's just locked in place without getting painful or annoying. I just wish they would have done more of it. I wish that jimping would go, you know, right from where, you know, the G10 starts to slope away from the edge. And I just wish it would have followed more of that swedge, at least half of the length of that swedge. Like between my fingers, I wish that was all with jimping. That way, you know, when you could reach forward like this, you can really have good, powerful, you know, cutting strength with that. Or up here, you know, before the jimping. So the jimping's okay. I just wish there was a whole lot more of it. 2 other things before I get to the next segment. The balance point is right there. I do wish the balance point was a little more this way, but it's not terrible right there. And the other thing I didn't show you was here at the end of the handle. I showed you the hole here, and you saw the picture maybe. But see here, the steel right there, it's flush with the G10. But back here, you know, the steel, we've got a little swedge on either side. The steel is exposed a little bit right there. That's in case you need to use the knife, you know, to crush something. It's going to hit the steel first instead of hitting this side, so the G10 first. So that's pretty much the overview. Let's move on to the next part. I generally wait till I'm making my video to see if the handle scales come off. Now these are free spinning. That one's just spinning all the way along. and that one's just spinning all the way along. So we're going to need to have 2 screwdrivers, 1 on each side. So you may have seen my vise in the intro. I like to use a vise to hold my knives so that if I've got free spinning screws, you know, I can safely hold the knife and then just use 2 screwdrivers to take it apart. I won't show me unscrewing this, but I highly suggest that you get a table vise like this if you're a knife enthusiast. There it is, taken apart. Yeah, there's still some oil residue in there. We've got some holes in here for skeletonizing. And, you know, solid slab of G10, very simple. And like I said, free spinning pins, not that big a deal. I'm not that concerned because it is not hard to get, you know, 2 screwdrivers on it. But, of course, I do prefer if it would have been just a D-shaped pin in there so that I wouldn't need 2 different screwdrivers to take it apart. Now let's go over all the specs, measurements, and all that stuff. I already talked about the steel. The weight of this knife, 141 grams, 4.97 ounces. The weight of the sheath, this is 53 grams, 1.87 ounces. Combined, we've got 194 grams, 6.84 ounces. Not bad. The sharpness from the factory, we've got a score of 120 bests, a little bit better than average for what I review on this channel. The cutting edge length, imagine a straight line from the tip to the heel of the blade, 101.6 millimeters, 4 inches on the nose, 4 inches. Blade length, so the tip to the closest spot on the G10, that's 97.4 millimeters, which is 3.84 inches. The thickness of this blade, 3.4 millimeters, 1.34 inches, so a little bit over 1/8 of an inch. Blade depth, it's widest right here at the heel of the blade, 27.7 millimeters, 1.09 inches. How thick is it behind the grind? Measured in 5 places this time, 3 places up here, 2 places up there. The average of all of that is 0.44 millimeters or 17,000ths of an inch. I like that. The grind angles, I didn't do all the math. I'll pause the video, do the math, and let you know. This side, the average angle between this flat section here is 17.2 degrees. This section here is 21.2 degrees. This was 21.2 all the way along. Here we started at 16.5, ended at 17.9. So that's quite a change in here. The actual degrees, what is it? 1.4 degrees of change along the length. This side here, 20.5 degrees along this section here, 20.4 to 20.6, so 20.5. And on the tip here, it started at 18 degrees, ended at 18.6 degrees. So that's 18.3 is the average, 0.6 degrees of change. Could they do better? Of course they could do better. But that is actually better than most knives that I review. So there you go. The rest of the measurements here, the handle length. So the start of the G10 to the end here, 130.8 millimeters, 5.15 inches. And the handle thickness is 13.5 millimeters, 0.531 of an inch. The handle depth, it's widest right there where my index fingers are, 25.8 millimeters, 1.02 inches. The grip area, so between my thumbs right there, 9.5, just a little over 9.5 centimeters, just a little over 3 3/4 inches. The total length from tip to the very end, 228 millimeters, 8.98 inches. So a good 9-inch knife, basically. I like it. For $33 US, I like it. If you're in Canada, this knife is completely safe to import into Canada. You might have to pay some taxes. I don't know. Probably not. Depends on how the company ships it. If Arena Accessories ships just through U.S. postal system, there's a very good chance you won't have to pay anything at all. Am I going to keep it? Probably not. I'm just not into Tantos, so I probably won't be keeping this knife, but I like it. It's a pretty nice knife. It's got some unique angles to it. It's got a cool look to it, but functionally it's well made as well. And, you know, it doesn't cost an arm and a leg, but it's kind of cool. It's a decent knife. If you're in the market for one of these, use the links down below. None of those are links that will earn me any money. Well, maybe the AliExpress one might. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks to my supporters. You guys are awesome. I appreciate your help every single month. And, oh, by the way, the winner from last month, he chose the Canary, the QSP Canary, that prototype. I was planning on keeping it, but I decided, no, I was going to let the winner choose that if they wanted to. And that's the knife that he's chosen for himself. So, yeah, that's kind of cool. Congratulations again. Thanks, guys. And remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.